Win light goes to Tim Moore. Oh, man, did he put a package together. 001 on the tree. Hits the 90 with a 3 at the big end. A 4,000s package in the semifinals. Oh, my goodness.
Welcome back to Behind the Bleachers, the podcast that takes you past the grandstands and into the real stories of athletes, racers, and competitors who bring the action to life. I'm your co-host, Josue Rodriguez, and with me I have
Orlando Perez.
And today we're diving into the high-speed world of NHRA sportsman drag racing. Our guest today is a name well known in the super gas world, Tim Moore of Moore Family Racing, based right here in Leavenworth, Kansas. With 49 years of racing experience, Tim has built a reputation as one of the toughest competitors in the sport. His resume speaks for itself. 2024 Flying H Drag Strip Super Gas Champion, 2017 Aeromotive Super Shootout Super Gas Champion, ranked 8th in the division in 2013, and gearing up for a top 10 finish in 2025. And if that's not enough, let's talk about his machine. Tim drives a 1990 Chevy Cavalier powered by a monstrous 572 cubic inch Chevy Big Block, pushing out an insane 1,073 horsepower. This car is built for speed, precision, and winning. Today we'll talk about his racing journey, his thoughts on NHRA's relationship with sportsman racers, and what keeps him coming back to the strip after nearly 5 decades. So buckle up, because this episode is all about speed, competition, and the drive to win. Let's get into it. All right, hold up real quick. If you're listening to this, chances are you love sports, media, and breaking down the game just like we do. So why not turn your passion into a career? The University of St. Mary in Leavenworth, Kansas has an awesome communications program that lets you do just that. Whether you're in sports communication, broadcasting, or journalism, you'll get hands-on experience from day one. Graduates go on to become sports reporters, videographers, and marketing pros. So if you're serious about making moves in the media, USM is the place to start. Check out stmary.edu to learn more. All right, back to it. All right, Tim, well, welcome to the show. First things first is kind of introduce who you are in the racing world, how it started, pretty briefly, and at the same time, how does drag racing work, and more importantly, how does it work in the super class world?
Like Josue mentioned, I've been racing for almost 50 years. I started really young with a friend of my father's taking me to the drag strip, and my passion for the sport grew from there. Started racing on my own when I was 18. I've had a few cars over my career. My current ride is a really nice 90 Cavalier. The categories that we run in, Shelby and I, is NHRA or National Hot Rod Association's fixed index classes, or the super classes, which is super comp, super gas, and super street. They run on a fixed index from super comp is 890, super gas is 990, and super street is 10.9 seconds. The fixed index classes were brought in by NHRA to help keep the cost down for the racers, where you didn't have to constantly spend lots of money on research and development to constantly go faster and faster and faster. Once you sorted your combination out and could actually run the number in your class, there's really no need to spend exorbitant amounts of money to try to continue to go faster. So basically those classes became really popular, and they field some of the largest car numbers at the races, at the National Hot Rod Association races we go to routinely. 100 to 120 cars per class is a common car count, which makes for some really good competition.
Yeah, so my question was how would you describe the NHRA's relationship with sportsman racers, and how do you feel like they provide enough support and opportunities compared to professional categories?
Two-part answer for that. So when you race in National Hot Rod Association, they have two different types of races that you can go to. Okay, so they have what they call a national event and what they call a divisional event. The national event is everything that you see televised on TV with, all the professional racers that run Top Fuel and Funny Car and Pro Stock. The sportsman racers also race at these national events. But they limit their car counts for each category. The races actually ran on the schedule for the professional racers, and all the sportsman categories are just filtered in when they have time. I mean, we have a schedule that we run on, but it's tentative. And a lot of times as a sportsman racer, you're just waiting around. You spend an enormous amount of time waiting to race because the professional categories obviously take precedence over us. When you race a divisional race, basically there are no pro categories at those classes, at those races. They have semi-professionals, which is the top alcohol and top alcohol dragster and top alcohol funny car. Those classes at the divisional level take precedence over the rest of the sportsman classes as far as scheduling, because a lot of times those categories are televised. So there's less for them to work around, less delays. The car counts in those categories are a little lower, so it doesn't take a lot of time to run those classes. So divisional race, NHRA does a really good job of looking out for the sportsman racer. I can't say enough. The national events, not so much, because where there is basically a filler. But overall, they're fair job at the national events, and I think they do a really good job at the divisional races.
You were talking about semi-pro racers at those divisional events, and you guys are not semi-pro then, right? Then you guys would be considered amateurs,
Well,
amateur level.
okay, so technically everybody that runs at the divisional is what they call a sportsman racer. The what I consider a semi-professional racer is in the alcohol classes with alcohol dragsters and alcohol funny cars, because a lot of time those classes are used for stepping stones into the professional categories. So, they're, for all intensive purposes, those classes are basically run as a professional operation. Those guys are aspiring to be professional racers. So, they're for all intensive purposes, semi-professional at that point. Uh,
What's the difference on when it comes horsepower or speed in that quarter mile with, I guess, you guys, and then semi-pro with those alcohol cars, and then with the pros?
okay, so in our fixed index classes, in the super gas, the super comp classes, your mile an hour range can be anywhere from 140 to 170, say in super gas. Super comp cars, which is the 890 class, those cars can consistently run, 160 to 185. There's been a couple of cars in that class that's actually run 200 mile an hour in the super comp class. When you get into the alcohol funded cars and alcohol dragsters, those cars are producing, you know, 6,000 horsepower probably. The alcohol dragsters are, running 270, 280, and the alcohol funded cars are 250, 260, somewhere in there. They're going pretty quick. When you move into the professional categories like nitro funded car and top fuel dragster, those cars are running, uh, you know, 10, 11,000 horsepower and, 330 miles an hour, in a quarter mile, and, at 3.6, 3.7 seconds, they're moving.
With that being said, is it a money thing then that separates you guys on when it comes to you deciding to want to race pro or semi-pro, then I'm assuming? What's the estimate of what you think if someone wants to start racing? Is it just better to stay in sportsman's racing, or is it at the same time where it's like, are you able to move up without spending so much money?
The step into this, even the semi-professional categories, like I said, the alcohol dragsters and alcohol funded cars, that is a substantial outlay of money continuously. Okay, so you're spending a lot of money all the time. All right, you're constantly refurbishing parts, buying new parts, because those cars eat parts all the time. The same way in the professional categories. So you have a substantial outlay of money just to run that class. Your cost per run is pretty steep. When I say that, I mean probably for an alcohol car, and I'm just grasping at straws here, but probably somewhere in $1,000 to $1,500 every time you go down the racetrack. That's what it's going to cost you when you're running in like the fixed index classes, or some of the slower classes that they have in National High Rod Association. Your cost per run is not that high. Once you've basically got your operation up and running, we can go race for a weekend, hotel rooms, travel, food, class, entry to the, for the race, for the whole weekend for $2,000, which, and you get into some of the, semi-professional categories, and that's just a little over one run down the track.
Yeah, I have one main question is like you've been doing this for so long. Like what motivates you to do this like every year and just continue doing it? And like what motivates it basically?
More family racing. I've raced with my daughters. All of them grew up at the racetrack. All of them have a lot of enthusiasm for the sport. Shelby especially, she really wanted to drive. So in 2020, we put a car together and she got her license in Super Comp. So, for me, it really kind of rekindled my enthusiasm for the sport, and seeing her, learn to drive, going down the racetrack, competing and spending the time at the racetrack with her. And that's really kind of rekindled, my enthusiasm. And I really still enjoy driving.
That's a wrap on the episode of Behind the Bleachers. From his 49-year journey in the sport to the raw power of his 1990 Chevy Cavalier, it's clear that passion and dedication drive everything he does. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow racing fans. You can follow More Family Racing on Instagram and also their latest races on nhra.tv. Tim, real quick, just give me some dates on your next coming races right here.
Okay, so our first race this year is going to be the very last weekend of April, first weekend of May. That's going to be in St. Louis, Missouri. Then tentatively, I'm planning on going to Chicago in the middle of May. And then I think we have a division race in Earlville, Iowa, like the first week of June.
Thank you, Tim. We'll be back soon with more stories from the worlds of sports. So stay tuned. Until next time, keep your engines revved, your reaction sharp, and we'll see you behind the bleachers.